Since its inception in 1987, Mega Man has spawned a large lineup of beloved games with main series titles, spin-offs, and even spin-offs that turn into their own main series, but all of those are not what we're here to talk about today. Someday. I promise. Probably. Today we're here to talk about the one and only original Mega Man. The one that started it all, but most gamers, me included, never actually played because it's so darn old. The one that birthed a legend. Looking like this. Yeah, this game is legendary for all the wrong reasons, isn't it? In good old NES fashion, this game doesn't have a plot. At all. At least not in the game. If you decide to look up the manual, or Google, you will find out that the game is about the titular robot Mega Man, built by Dr. Light and Dr. Wily, and 6 other humanoid robots who are built to keep the city of Monsteropolis safe. The doctors get into a scuffle, and Wily turns all but Mega Man evil, so our protagonist now has to destroy his old friends and defeat his co-creator. Something I found funny is that in the original Japanese manual, most of the plot is pretty different, making the US plot of Mega Man effectively fanfiction. Damn those Capcom USA weebs for tinkering with the masterpiece of story writing that is Mega Man 1. There's nothing that looks more like an early NES game than an early NES game. And Mega Man is an early NES game. Get it? The Blue Bomber's first outing is plagued by many of the same issues as its peers, mostly boring single-color backgrounds, reused assets in different colors everywhere you look, and visual bugs en masse, from laggy projectiles and frame drops to even characters and enemies straight up disappearing sometimes. There are 2 things, however, that visually make it stand out from the rest: indoor backgrounds and character animations. While outdoor areas tend to look pretty bland and could have used a skybox or other background images at times, the different factories and bases Mega Man visits in some levels have some really cool visuals, like the battered down gratings in Fireman's stage. Most characters and enemies in this game are also expressive in a way few NES games managed. The animations make the world feel alive, and their designs give the game that 80s style anime look, despite being only a few pixels per character. One thing I want to note is that the game has terrible tearing issues that I could not manage to fix with VSync on or off, both in-game as well as system level. It's not really a big issue and might even just be in the PC version I've played, but it is a remaster collection, so it stood out to me in comparison to similar ones I've played before, like Castlevania. Mega Man is a series that is widely known for its amazing music, some of it being cited as the best game music of its time by fans and critics. If the Super Smash Bros. Remixes are anything to go by, this might very well be true, and Mega Man 1 is often considered a bit underrated in this regard. Well, I think they are perfectly well rated because the soundtrack is pretty mixed. While things like the main theme and most of the stage music are memorable, diverse, and fun to listen to, there are some outliers that just kind of pull the general perception of the OST down a bit, namely the boss themes. I don't like either of them, and with how much of your playtime you spend fighting bosses, they get old pretty fast and downright annoying towards the end. That said, some of the stage music is legitimately great, and you should definitely give this OST a listen if you don't plan on playing the game. You might find a new 8-bit favorite or 2. Our little blue hero can do exactly 3 things: move, jump, and shoot. Prime US citizen right there, although I guess those don't jump. Instead of defending his property though, Mega Man's goal is to defeat the evil robot masters and many more robot non-masters on their way to them with his puny little arm cannon. The game isn't exactly very complicated, but it sure isn't easy. Touching an enemy, even when Mario hopping on their heads, will damage you, as will being attacked obviously, and while you're not dead after 1 or 2 hits like in many other side-scrollers, the levels are filled to the brim with enemies and not filled at all with healing items, so getting hit as little as possible is paramount to you reaching the boss at the end of each stage. A unique feature of Mega Man is that you get to choose the order in which to play the levels. Well, the first 6, since the last 2 are significantly harder and go straight to the final boss, so you only unlock those after beating the rest. Which one you start with doesn't really matter all that much, but some definitely feel easier than others. While Fireman's stage isn't all that hard, the boss itself is an absolute bitch to fight, being almost impossible to dodge and having a lot of HP. Same with Iceman, who deals an atrocious amount of damage and requires very precise jumping to dodge his shots. Stages like Gutsman or Cutman are significantly easier to clear, providing a decent entry point into the hardcore platforming world of Mega Man. While the gameplay is the same in each stage, they're all specifically themed after not just their boss, but also a gimmick. Fireman's stage has many hazards like flame pillars, whereas Elecman's stage is filled with timing-based hurdles, like these little buzzy thingies where you need to figure out when they will zap to properly dodge them and proceed. Every level is unique, making the playthrough feel exciting all the way through, not getting boring for a second. Except for this section. Some dev must have thought that a game needs at least 1 point for players to get bored at for some reason. Nevertheless, the memorable and fun stages are definitely the highlight of this game, especially when put up against the not-so-great bosses. Okay, that might not be fair, some of them are pretty good. I like Bomb Man, even though he's very easy, and Iceman, while definitely slightly overtuned, is at least a fun fight to figure out. But most of the fights, especially Gutsman and Fireman, are downright annoying to fight, and Elecman is the definition of unfair. So, you finally made it through all 6 stages, beating the Robot Masters and unlocking the final stage where you face the evil Dr. Wily. But the gate is closed. Alright, I guess that's it for this game. Fun ride. You might think that if you're an idiot. But this is where the game's main gimmick comes into play. Whenever you defeat a Robot Master, you also gain a new weapon based off their abilities. You can shoot Iceman's beams, throw Bombman's bombs, and even use Gutsman's strength to just rip this motherfucker open. A little fun anecdote. I'm the idiot. I didn't know about this feature. Well, I could have probably guessed given how Mega Man works in Smash Bros, but since the game never really tells you about it and the collection doesn't come with a manual, I just played through the 6 stages with my trusty blaster and only found out about the other forms of combat when I happened to press pause for the first time, trying to figure out how to get into Wily's fortress. Feel free to laugh. I've earned that L. So, if you happen to not play the game in a self-inflicted hard mode, the difficulty for most bosses is actually pretty low, since each Robot Master has a specific weapon they're weak against, meaning you can play an optimal route through the levels and have a dandy time against the bosses. Now that we're inside, Wily's stage throws some nasty traps at us, including this genius idea: reusing each of the prior bosses again, separated by small gameplay sections. This introduces a new element to the game: energy management, where before you would usually just go into a boss fight with a fully charged weapon and blast them away, having to fight them back to back can easily result in you running out of the precious charge, and thus making the last spurt significantly harder if you don't manage your resources well during the non-boss sections. We also come across the most randomly hard boss in video gaming, Yellow Gummy Bear, Devil. Not only is this supersized Kinder Egg toy packaging invulnerable to damage 95% of the time, it also opens the fight by stabbing you in the back. Lovely. I am willing to bet my literal balls that there is not a single person in this world who fully dodged the first attack of this thing when they entered the room for the first time. Seriously, no shot. Similar to Iceman, dodging the attacks of this thing requires pretty good timing and movement, as well as a ton of extra lives, because it does have one weakness. The attack pattern is the same every single time, so all you have to do is muscle memorize the fight and you will beat it, after having to go through the stage itself like 20 times. Well, at least the game keeps your progress when you hit a game over, so you don't have to replay it from the very beginning every time you run out of lives. You just gotta replay the level you're stuck on. Once you finally wipe the floor with this chocobo dung, all you have to do is fight a weaponized toilet drainage and you're up against Dr. Wily himself. Well, in a robot. The only fight in the game to have 2 phases, this boss is surprisingly easy given the onslaught of new and rehashed bosses you fought through to get here. Just dodge his balls, not those, while shooting at his cannon, not that one, and you'll be the winner of this anticlimactic showdown in no time and can watch Mega Man anime run back to his friends, who we've never seen before in the whole game. This one's Dr. Light, and this here is Roll, Mega Man's, you know. And that's a wrap. With pretty much no secrets to find, you have now fully beaten Mega Man 1 and can...
Hold up! Wait a minute!
I knew I forgot something. Yeah, this room. Why am I bringing this up now? Because it's shit! See, there's an optional weapon in the game that you can find in the Elecman stage that shoots out platforms for you to stand on, making some platforming sections a lot simpler. To get it, however, you need to have Gutsman already beaten because his power to rip walls down is needed to get to this power-up. Sounds like a cool little secret, right? No, because this stupid room exists and it requires this missable weapon. With me not even knowing about the power-ups, I obviously missed this on my first playthrough and got hard stuck in this room for a good while before giving up and googling how to proceed, forcing me to replay not just Elecman stage but also the Wily one because I obviously had to drop out of that first. If this room just required very precise platforming or something that you could trivialize with the power-up, that would be fine. But locking the only way to progress behind something so easily missable just doesn't sit right with me from a game design perspective, so I had to bring it up. The Legacy Collection version doesn't fix any of the original game's issues, but it does bring a few nice features of its own. Of major import here is a rewind button. Personally, not really my style. I definitely think it's a good idea to include that in this sort of game, especially with how easy it is to die to some unexpected bug. It also makes the game much more manageable if you're not great at 2D style games, so go ahead and use it at your leisure. You pussy. There are also a bunch of optional challenges outside of the main game, like time trials and so forth, that give you a reason to spend more than 2 hours with the game. Since the challenges are collection-wide and thus cover all 6 included games, I won't be reviewing them in detail. Just know they're there and are a decent way to play the game in a bit of a unique and even more challenging way. Oh, there's also an art gallery. I love when games include stuff like concept art so I can look at it once and never touch it again. No, honestly, this is a nice touch, and I had a few fun minutes checking it out after beating the game. Good on you, Capcom. Mega Man definitely has some really cool ideas for a game this old, and surely influenced many titles that came after with its rock, paper, scissors style boss design, non-linearity, and generally pretty tight run-and-gun gameplay. Plenty of visual glitches that often impair the playability of the game cause some unnecessary frustrations that I would have loved to be fixed in a collection for modern platforms, but I guess Capcom wanted to preserve the game's original quirks even if it meant potentially turning off new players. As it stands, I can recommend playing the game if you want to challenge yourself to a short and fun side-scroller that happens to be on the unfair side of hard. You won't really miss much by not playing the game, but who can resist the thought of being able to tell your next Tinder date that you played with Dr. Wily's balls? She never called me back after that. When we completed Mega Man, we had 1 hour and 36 minutes of total playtime, 6 Robot Masters scrapped, 19 Mega Man scrapped, aka I died, 106 energy tanks collected, and 1 screaming fit because who the fuck designed Yellow Devil? Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, which is... oh boy.
It's a war out there every day. You can't hide from me. You gotta pray for the rules, pretty cool. Gotta laugh in the face of this artistry. When your friends and boss look alike on the face of it, they miss the history, but they're fine.